curious about the spark behind your favorite content creator, the journey, the challenges, and the stories that led them to the spotlight? Dive in with Giorgio Takanakis, known as Giorgio Says, and the mystical Natalie Rogers from Femme Tarot. Every week, one guest, countless stories. Let's get the conversation started.
All right, you guys, welcome to another episode of Creating the Creator podcast with myself, Giorgio Says, and your favorite spiritual coach, Natalie Rogers from Femme Tarot. And today's guest, well, this one kind of hits home for me because I listened to this guest for years on my local radio station. She was on one of the biggest radio stations locally in the DC area called the Kane Show. A lot of you may know it. It became syndicated. Sarah Fraser is on the show today, and we had probably one of the best conversations we've had to date. What did you think, Natalie?
I loved it. It was so organic. We always have these questions prepared, as you guys know, and we're getting better at this, you guys. It's a new podcast. But the thing is, we didn't even have to follow our question, like our whole note sheet, because this was so organic. And she's an Aquarius, which was a bonus.
Oh my gosh. We could have probably kept her on for 3 weeks and had one episode for long and long. No, but it was so insightful. She really did dive into a lot of things, how she was able to pivot from radio to podcast, which I didn't realize that time period that she shifted when she spoke about it. That was really interesting, but it was a learning curve because it's always interesting to hear what people that came from radio think of podcasting, essentially. But she gave a lot of great advice, and I won't hold you guys up and keep ranting. So without further ado, please enjoy our conversation with Sarah Fraser.
We want to start off because we've been going, and three Aquariuses, this could go on all night.
This could go on all day.
Like 2 hours, yeah.
Here and get nowhere. So we want to start off with some icebreaker questions, right? We have 5 icebreaker questions. These are fun. People get to know you as well. They get to know you from different side. And then we've got so much to talk about. Georgia, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. All right. So we're going to get into some icebreaker questions, Sarah. So the first one gets everyone. So if your life had a theme song, what would it be and why?
Oh my God. I have heard this on the show, and I should have been prepared. I think it would be Katy Perry's Firework. I really do. I am like a huge burst of energy. I usually like a firework. I usually burn real bright and then it's real dark. It's real hot and then I'm not.
Scorpio.
Is that the Scorpio? So love people love people in short doses. I burn bright and then I'm out. So I would say it's a firework.
That's perfect.
Now it's stuck in my head now. I'm singing.
I know. I'm going to hear it in my head all day. All right. Next one is, if you had to create a new national holiday, what would it be called and how would people celebrate it?
What would my new national holiday be? Oh Lord, this is so good. See, I listened to your show and I'm totally unprepared. We have so many. I don't know. I'd probably be around comedy. I love stand-up comedy. Is there a national holiday for stand-up comedy? I think it would be a national holiday for stand-up. And everybody in your office, see how many people would be fired. Everyone in your office would have to do a 5-minute set. I mean, what people would come up with would be so.
I love that.
That is brilliant.
That is brilliant. I love that.
I've done so many improv and stand-up classes. And what's funny is it really does change the dynamic of an office. Because you guys know this, I did morning radio for years. And one of the things is they would always hire an improv teacher or a stand-up comedy teacher. And they would get you as a group or individual, but in front of your group to do comedy sets. And I'm telling you, people you never thought were funny they were like amazing. It was wild.
Oh my God. See, now I really want to sign up and do more improv.
Oh, yeah, I've done improv over the years. I just did a stand-up class out here in LA last year, which was amazing. I mean, it was nerve-wracking because I've always been a part of a group for the most part, but it was like liberating. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds so fun to me.
It was good. It was good.
Question:
Yeah.
Who's your favorite stand-up?
Well, Joan Rivers. Joan was my absolute favorite. And years ago, when George Carlin died, the year he died, they honored him at the Kennedy Center for the Mark Twain Award. And so I was invited, and she was there. Jerry Seinfeld was there. Jimmy Kimmel. I'm telling you, Joan, like it was all men and Joan like brought the house down. I mean, these men could not hold a candle. She was just one in a million. I miss her presence so much. And I don't think there's anybody else ever like her.
Yeah.
And I'm so inspired by her.
She was such an icon, and there will never be another even close.
No, and
never.
She was in her 70s then. And I mean, Dennis Leary was there. And I mean, those guys were like in awe of her. I mean, and they were like heavyweights. She was just like, you couldn't beat it. It was wild.
But she was also a ball buster in terms of being a businesswoman. So, they knew their place. And I really appreciated that about her because she was doing it in a time where it wasn't really a thing.
Yeah, so. I know. And I mean, you talk about a credible businesswoman. Oh my God. Yeah.
Consistency's key. All right. So next question is, what's the weirdest talent or skill you have that not many people would know about?
Getting money from old men. That is what I'm good at. I really want to be, if I had it to do over, I would have been a sugar baby. I'd had propositions in my 20s to be a sugar baby, and I turned them down. I will not say the name of a very famous restaurateur who was in DC, took me out to dinner. I knew nothing about him. At the end, he handed me his black Amex, and he said, I want you to go buy expensive shoes and send me pictures. And I was like, okay. And he's like, by the way, I'm married and I have 2 kids. My wife is totally fine with this as long as we're discreet. And I'm like, I can't do this. I mean, then I dated a guy in DC who was 18 years older, who was like a beer baron. And, all my friends would go to his pool. They would use all his shit. Like, I mean, I was just at finding men with money. And I was almost engaged. You probably know this, Giorgio. I was engaged to this man we referred to on the radio as Old Man Ed, who had money, and he was such a nice guy. But I just couldn't. At some point, I realized I had daddy issues because my dad passed away when I was in high school. And I was like, I can't get married to these men that are 20 years older, because I had a girlfriend who's married to a guy who's very rich, who's a part of the WWE. And she always says to me, when you marry for money, you work for it every day. And I just was like, I can't be with that man. Like, I don't want to. They're old, they're boring. They want to golf. They want to go out on a fishing trip every weekend. And I was literally with a rich man on a fucking fishing boat. And I was like, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. I don't want to be here. It is not worth it. But I'm very good. If there's an old man in the room, I am great. I can get you money. I can get you a date. The old men love me. It's a daddy.
Maybe you should interview Tom Girardi then. I mean, since you've got it with old man.
Oh my God. I would have been like, I'm with Erica. I would have been like in love with Tom.
Yeah.
Would have been my man. I actually, oddly, not now, because Tom is such a crook. Do you guys curse on your show? I always
yes. Go for it.
Tom is such a fucking crook. He should be in jail. I don't believe for one second he has dementia. But I actually found him. I used to find him really hot, actually, on the show. I was like, oh my God, I got why Erica was with him. I love it. The wealth, the power. I was all about it.
But I think also he was publicly charismatic enough that she at least got to enjoy that piece of it. He wasn't a complete womp womp. He knew when to turn it on, but I'm sure behind closed doors, he was definitely dad.
Oh, well, he was, because we saw him at a scene at Real Housewives of Beverly Hills where he snapped at Erica because he's like, I'm talking now, stop interrupting. And she was like, so you can tell that he was quite like a domineering kind of personality.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I mean, you guys know this. I mean, old rich men, it's like you're living in their world. I mean, you're doing what they want. It's not about you,
Totally.
What a talent there. There you go.
A showman.
Talent.
If your life were a reality TV show, Sarah, what would the title be? And what would the tagline for the show be?
Well, my husband and I talk about this, and we would call it, my husband's last name is Rabin, mine is Fraser. So we always say our reality show would be called That's So Frabin. Instead of That's So Raven, That's So
I like that.
Frabin. I think the tagline would be one crazy bitch, one stable man. I mean, he's the yin to my yang. I adore him. I don't know why he's still with me. It took me 6 years to marry him. I would break up with him, cheat on him with other, I never cheated on him, but I would break up with him and then go date other people. And then that wouldn't work out. So I'd call him and I don't even know why he's with me, but
what's his sign?
He's a Leo. He's a Leo.
I felt it.
Really?
My partner's a Leo, and so it's the same. I'm a psychopath,
me too.
Legit psychopath. And he has his moments. He's a Leo, but he is the calming force. He tells me where we're going, which direction I'm walking half the time, because I'm aloof. We're a total air sign. I'm like, what? But it's just funny because that's almost. I was like, I feel like that's a Leo energy.
That's why I asked. That's why I asked you.
So wild.
Oh,
he's Jeff.
He was the greatest decision of my life. And and you guys know this, as an air sign and Aquarius, and with all these planets that I have in Libra, it was hard. It's very hard for me sometimes to make decisions. It took me so long. And even leading up to the wedding, I'm like, I don't know. I could be with somebody else. I had grass is greener syndrome. The greatest thing I ever did was walk down the aisle. He's just been the best partner. And he's the reason that my podcast is successful, because when I started out in 2015, nobody had podcasts, nobody advertised. There weren't places where you could distribute your podcast and have ads put on. I mean, it was really rough. And without him, I would never be here.
Oh, see, that's amazing.
See, yeah. But I was the same at my wedding. 2 weeks before the wedding day, I was like, I'm canceling. I called my parents. I'm like, no, I can't do this. Can't do this. Can't do this. I don't want to do this. This is a commitment. I don't want to. And I did it. And I'm so proud of myself. And we're still together, hanging on. But
I know. It's not easy. I don't want to make it sound like it's oh, everything's great. It's not easy. But yeah, it's definitely nerve-wracking for sure to say yes.
Gosh, it sounds nerve-wracking.
Are you there yet? Are you guys engaged at all, Giorgio?
No, but you know what? It's been more and more of a conversation in the last year. If I'm honest, we kind of did it backwards, but we've been together 11 years, and we dated long distance for 6 months. Then he moved to DC from Boston. We moved right in together. Pretty much bought our condo a year later, went to New York, lived there for 5 years, moved back, sold our condo, bought our house here in historic Hyattsville. And right at the height of the pandemic, everything was quiet, and we were just in this new house, and I had all this space that I never had before. And I really wanted to get into this, fully immerse myself and put myself out there. And finally did it. And it just kind of just took off. And he's been such a stable force under me, because I'm very much like this, I'm freaking out. I'm bursts of energy, and then I go dark and close the door and don't want to talk to you for a few days because I got to sort things out. So it's just been a journey. But so, yeah, it's been a conversation, but I almost feel like it would be the icing on the cake, because we've already gone through so much life together. That it's not I feel like that would be the shift in something. I mean, obviously it would change a little bit, but not to the degree of it being only knowing someone 2 years and then getting married. That would be scarier for me.
Oh yeah, you guys are married. Yeah, you're in finance. You're in finances. You're there. Okay, that's easy. You did it the right way. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Lock them in. No.
Lock them in.
All right, last question for icebreakers, and this one's always really funny. What is the oddest thing you've ever Googled late at night when you couldn't sleep?
Oh my God, this is so embarrassing. Well, some people know this, but I had an anal fissure a couple of years ago, and it was I was just I didn't know what it was. It's basically like a paper cut in your butthole. Sorry, I have GI issues. Okay, if anybody's listening and they have IBS, they know that the journey. But I was literally Googling like pain in my butt. Why does my butthole hurt? Like, it was like all these things come up. Like, are you having hard anal sex? I'm like, no, I just like, why is my asshole on fire? I mean, it's just like, what
was it prompting Google when you wrote, why does my butt hurt gay? Like, did it differentiate between the
I think just like butt toys kept coming up and all this stuff. I'm like, no, this is a medical butthole issue. It was really awful. But needless to say, I went to a gastrointestinal doctor and I found out I had IBS and I had to like sit in a warm bath for several days and then it was okay. But yeah, that was a really weird moment.
Were you able to at least figure out what triggers it so that you can kind of, or does it just happen and you now know how to deal with it?
No, it basically, if you're a person, well, I'm a person, like when I get really nervous, like I go to the bathroom a lot, right? Like my digestive tract just like goes. Yeah. So if you go to the bathroom a lot, you don't create a hemorrhoid. You can sometimes, but you basically create like, it's a paper cut in your butt, really. It's just so painful because obviously the tissue there is so like
sensitive.
Like your audience is like,
that's okay. No, it's
so gross. So, but if anyone's ever had one, it's the most painful thing ever. It's so you're just like, what is this? It's like you can't concentrate, you can't sit down. All you can do is lay on your side. And then of course, like you go to the doctor, they have like a little like lotion for it, or then you have to sit in a warm bath. You have to do all these things to like heal it. But yeah, basically if you have IBS and you go to the bathroom a lot, you can be susceptible to it.
Okay.
Interesting.
Well,
I know.
Hopefully we get some emails from people feeling like they're seen and heard now.
I'm so hurt after Sarah talked about her anal fissure.
Imagine all the Googling people have been doing. And
that's what, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's our icebreaker question, Sarah. Thanks for making it through that. Now we can actually get into the meat and potatoes. Why you're
all right. Yeah. If there's anything left, here we go. Yeah.
After anal paper cuts. Yeah. Okay. So like, let's start from the beginning because you've had such an amazing career in radio, right? Giorgio, just before we came on, he was like, he was listening to your show. He knew who you were back then because he lived in the area. He knew of the Kane Show. Kane Show was huge. So how was the transition, or how was your experience from traditional radio moving into the podcasting world? Because you've had your podcast for such a long time. Everyone has a podcast now. We know that. I mean, we were the butt of the joke too. Hey, yeah, we started a podcast, but it's about the content creators, not about all the other stuff. But so how was that transition for you? And how did your experience help you?
Oh my God. It was rough for sure in 2015 when I started my podcast. But before that, Giorgio knows in 2007, I got a job on a show that was new to the DC area called the Kane Show. And it was on a top 40 morning show. And, in 2007, really, I don't even think podcasting existed, or maybe it was just beginning, but nobody podcasted. Everyone still listened to your morning radio. And so I got this amazing job, and within like a year, the show was number one. It was myself and this guy, Kane, and Sammy, and this other guy, Eric, and everybody. We were just like four friends, and we were young. We were all in our 20s, and we went out. And so we talk about our shenanigans, and we did this bit called War of the Roses, where we would catch cheaters, and we'd do Kane scams where we pranked each other. And so people like loved this show. And then it became syndicated across the country on Sirius XM and in Tampa, Florida, and Cincinnati and Louisville, Kentucky, all these places. So it started to like really blow up. And it was like wild. Like I never experienced, people recognizing you in DC when you went out and all this stuff. And so for a while it went along really well. And then I ended up leaving the show in 2013. I've talked about this and I'm happy to talk about it. But unfortunately, it became just this incredibly toxic work environment where we didn't realize at the time that Kane was having all these mental health issues. We were like in our 20s. I had never gone to therapy until that point. But Kane was really having this like OCD bipolar state that was going untreated. So, you'd go in one day in the show, everybody would be friends. And the next day he'd be kicking trash cans at people and threatening Sammy and throwing keys at his head and yelling and screaming. And I mean, it was so chaotic. And I finally, in desperation, I was gaining weight. I was like eating to try to cope with what was going on. And I finally went to a therapist, and she said to me, she gave me the analogy. She said, this is what an abusive marriage would look like, where like a man would hit you in the face and then the next day say to you, I love you, I'm sorry, I'll never do this again, like you have to stay. And then a week later, he's kicking you in the face, right? And it's this very confusing, you don't know, like, and I kept thinking it was something I was doing, like, what can I do to make this better? Because we were all experiencing this like fame and a lot of money because we were getting bonuses for the ratings and all these things. And I'm like, what do I do? And so eventually I realized I had to leave. Like it wasn't going to get any better. Nothing was going to change. He was not getting fired. Like I was leaving. So I left. And I actually ended up doing another brief morning show in DC called Sarah, Ty, and Mel on DC's 107.3 for about a year and a half. And then the channel changed formats, and they wanted me to stay or I could take a severance package. And at that time in 2015, when we went out, we would hear people like our age. I go like, what do you listen to on the radio? And they're like, oh, I listen to Serial. I listen to this S-Town podcast. I listen to Joe Rogan. I'm like, oh boy, this is the kiss of death. Like if young people are no longer listening to morning radio, it really is the end of radio. So I took the severance package and I started a podcast, and the first 3 years were awful. I should have quit. Nobody really listened. No one knew how to find a podcast. I mean, for just like the grace of God, some sponsors from the radio had followed me over and gave me a chance on the show. I made a ton of mistakes. I paid way overpaid co-hosts who I adored, but I didn't have the money really to pay them, and I did. I rented studio space when I could have been doing it from my house. Like I made all these mistakes. And then like finally, I guess slowly I got a salesperson who really helped me. The pandemic helped me tremendously with the ratings, with people like listening because people were home and searching for things. And then I actually moved to LA about a year and a half ago because I lived in DC for a long time. And I just felt like there was everything that I had done, I could possibly do there, I had done. And I needed to grow. And moving to LA was the greatest thing ever. I got on a different platform distributing my podcast. I had companies approach me to sell the show. And so it just was such a game changer in every way. So it worked out, but it was really rough. And I wasn't a businesswoman. I'd always worked for a company. So then when I was on my own, even trying to be someone's boss and be like, hey, you can't be late to this podcast recording was really hard to hold people accountable. So I had to learn all that. And it was a definite learning curve.
Wow, that is, but that's really interesting because around that time, like especially like 2013, I do feel like things from radio, even like satellite radio, it was kind of dying off. And then there was this like uptick of like podcasts, but you didn't really know when you would listen to them, but people were talking more and more about podcasts rather than radio. So that was interesting.
Oh my God. Yeah. And I mean, when I launched my show, I mean, I had people from the radio business that I had known call me and they were like, this is not a good look. Like you need a radio job. If you ever want to work again, like, why are you doing this? This is not good. And of course, then all those people now have podcasts, they all have podcasts, or they become, I love all these people from radio that I knew that now are radio or podcast consultants, excuse me. They've left radio, now they're podcast consultants, but of course 8 years ago, they were like, oh, that's so beneath you, but I'm a big believer. You have to go with your gut. I mean, you two are both, I'm sure, very in tune with, your feelings, your gut. And my gut just was like, you need to go out, you need to have your own voice. And what I love about podcasting is when I was in radio, bosses, female bosses, male bosses would always say, women don't want to hear women on the radio. That's why you always need a male co-host. That's why morning shows, you never had the Sarah and, Natalie show. It didn't, like, maybe it existed once, Wendy Williams, she never had a morning show. She was always in the afternoon. afternoon. Like women couldn't lead in the morning.
True.
I never believed that. I was like, I don't believe that. Like women watch women on TV. You're telling me women aren't going to listen to women? So I also I was like, fuck it. I'm going to have my own voice. I'm going to lead my own show. And I love seeing how many women now are winning at podcasting. I mean, it's amazing to see some of the top podcasters be female because that was completely opposite of what the radio business believed.
I mean, look at what it's done for Alex Cooper. That's a
true. I know.
And she is, I mean, like her or not, I mean, I personally like her. I think she's cool and like pretty chill, but the massive, like, wow, good for you, my love. Like that's like completely different than what it might have been 10 years ago. It might have been a radio show for her, perhaps, that got syndicated. Or
I mean, there were a couple of women like doing it maybe on Sirius XM, but I don't think a decade ago or more, I don't think Alex ever would have let her own show. I don't think that because you had so many gatekeepers then, you know, now you don't have a gatekeeper. Everybody can start their own show like we did, you know, like we're all doing. Anywhere, anytime, you can put it out on any topic. And that wasn't in 2007. I mean, you had, you know, it was Clear Channel at the time, but you had like Clear Channel, Cumulus. You only had a few radio companies. And same with like how much people used to watch ABC, NBC, CBS back then. I mean, now it's like, do people watch those big three networks unless there's football on? Not a lot, you know. Well, some, you know, like The Bachelor and things. I shouldn't say they totally don't, but there's so many choices now.
A lot of choices.
Where do you see radio now? I mean, since you've had that experience, and you know, we can see that everything's moving to podcasting as well as TV now. Mainstream media, mainstream TV is dying because more and more people are heading over. Like it's either social media, you get your news or your tidbits on TikTok or YouTube. So where do you see? Where is this leading for radio and TV? Like, what's the future for radio and TV? Where do you see radio and TV in the next 5 to 7 years, let's just say, in your experience?
I think to some degree, local radio will exist because I think you're going to always have this small group of people that probably want to hear like local news and traffic. And even though they can get it on their apps, I think there's something personalized maybe about it. So I think you're still going to have these, you know, terrestrial radio stations that are out there. As far as like, but I mean, you see like iHeart, Cumulus, all these guys, I mean, they're going into podcasts to survive, you know, their big shows are podcasting. And you're going to see the ad dollars, you already are switching over to podcast. And I think we're still in the infancy of podcasting. I still think the next decade for people that have great podcast shows, they're only going to get more and more ad dollars because, you know, still, I'm sure you guys get this. I still have people on my TikTok that will message me weekly. How do I find your podcast? You know, it's like, you know, there's still people out there that don't know how to access a podcast. So I think in the next 5 years, you're going to have another big subset of people that go, oh, I know how to get a podcast. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see, and I think a lot of podcasters are in good positions where their content might be licensed back to radio stations. Especially some storytelling, like a true crime show could be, a political show could be, maybe a daily pop culture show could be. TV, I think, has more longevity because you do have things like sports. I mean, you still have monster ratings for NFL games. And, you know, a lot of these content shows it takes a lot to produce them. You know, they are The Bachelor. It's like, that's hard for like someone on YouTube to just create, you know? So I think they're in a better position because they do still have these kind of bigger productions that, you know, you can't really just stage your own Survivor. I mean, Mr. Beast is like trying to, but he's sort of the only one, you know, like he's the only one.
True.
You know, I still think TV probably has more legs in it. And it's especially like great HBO shows. I mean, everybody still will talk about those. People get behind them. But I mean, I think now more than ever is the time. If you're a creative and you want to create any type of show, you should 100% be doing it.
But because you said HBO and you said all these big shows, but these you can get on streaming, right? You can stream them on Netflix, HBO, etc. But how about like mainstream TV, like, you know, the local channels and the news, and you've got the weather, and then you've got the quiz shows and all that. Who watches those? Like, I know the older generation do because they are not tech savvy. But once the older generation is out, as bad as it sounds, is TV eliminated? I mean, do we all switch our computers and our phones and that's it? Because this is how I see it. This is because then there's more freedom of speech, right? Because the problem with mainstream media is that you don't have freedom of speech. Things are censored. There's propaganda. There's a lot of campaigning. There's a lot of stuff. You have to keep your sponsors and the advertisers happy. So you're limited in what you're able to roll out or to produce. So that's why I'm asking, because it's really interesting to see how fast things are moving. And you're right. Back in 2015, when you started your podcast, there were just a handful of other podcasts out there. And look at us now. There's not enough time in the day to listen to all those podcasts.
Yeah.
You know, and then you've got a backlog of like episodes and podcasts on your app, on your phone, and you're like, oh my God, I really should find some time to listen to this episode. And then there's a new episode. So I think that we're oversaturated right now, but still the fact that the consumer has the freedom to choose out of a variety or a wide array of content, I think this is what's going to drive TV and radio, mainstream TV and radio out. I don't know.
I think you're right. I mean, I think in another decade, your local channels and your terrestrial radio are going to be in trouble because their audiences have shrunk tremendously in a decade, in 2 decades. So what is it going to look like in another decade? Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think younger people are on TikTok, Twitch. They're not watching NBC, CBS. I mean, I'm sure you guys, I used to be obsessed with like the Today Show, right? And like I would watch the Today Show. I mean, I think all those shows are going to go away and will they go away? Maybe they'll just have these really small audiences. I mean, you all know this. We all watch like all the Bravo shows, the TLC shows. I mean, the days of like a show having like 20 million people, right? Like Roseanne did back in the day, or a sitcom did back in the day. I mean, they just don't exist anymore, So I think the standards will be a lot lower. Like if they keep a local news, they're probably going to be happy if they have 40,000 views instead of when they were used to like 1 million people tuning in at night,
Sure.
What that looks like is just smaller. They're just not going to pay their anchors as much, right? Those people are going to be paid less because they can't get the advertising dollars to justify huge salaries. I think the interesting part will be though, how do you trust voices? Like, I think I'm struggling with that now, right? It's so hard to like find legitimate people that you're like, oh, I actually trust them, that they're researching and, not biased. It's really hard. So I do think we're in this complex state of like, who do you get your info from and how do you know it's really real?
Well, what's interesting, talking about all that is I agree is that I think the internet access on people's mobile devices has allowed them more options to watch different things. There was a time we didn't have internet, we didn't have phones. So Friday night was it, TGIF on ABC.
Yeah.
Like you had your night planned, you ordered Pizza Hut, you like sat down, that was it. So yes, 20 million people, you are going to see those numbers every Friday. Now it is different, but like myself, like I am a part of the Roku developer platform. And so they just had their summit and they talked a lot about how TVs are going to be basically like an iPhone on your wall. You're not going to need to plug it in. It's going to be internet, Bluetooth connected, and everything is not going to be a channel. It's going to be an app, essentially, like what Roku has. You download your Netflix app, you download your Hulu app, but individual creators are putting their stuff now on these streaming platforms and building their own channels and owning their content and not having to go to a big powerhouse. So I'm also seeing more control over people's own IP and ideas.
Yes.
Whereas before, it's like you're almost waiting for the right big opportunity to come make you who you're going to be. And then that could be taken away. And then what else do you have? So this to me has been more beneficial because I'm learning everything, maybe not in the best way, but it's taught me a little bit of everything enough to make me seem and feel professional in terms of how I put stuff out there. But I know I have a lot more to grow, but I know I can get it done. Whereas I think maybe 15 years ago, nobody would have been like, well, where do I start?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with both of you. Yeah. I think you nailed it for the future. Yes.
And also another thing I think that factors in what we're saying is that because of TikTok and shorts and the reels, people don't have patience. They want quick bites, fast info. They want in, they want out. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. This is the mentality right now. This is what's happening. And then on TV, you've got to wait for you've got the ads, and then you've got this, and then it's very formatted. So people are like, I don't have time for this shit. Give me my info, give me my entertainment, give me what I want.
Yes.
So I don't know where this is all heading. It's scary because if 3-minute TikToks already too long and we don't have patience for that. Wow. Because I can see it in my kid, my daughter is 12 years old, and she's like, swipe, 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 swipe. Oh, she doesn't have patience. And I'm like, hey, stop swiping. Can you watch the video? She's like, I know what this is about. I know how this is going to end. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't know everything just because you're 12, Geez. But this is what's scary to me. This is what's scary regarding how we consume information and what's considered entertainment these days.
I agree. I mean, it's really hard, right? And with AI and the deep fakes that they make of people, and those are only going to get better and better. It's so hard. And I'm a skeptic now too. Almost everything that I see, if people are like, oh, this is happening, and it's hard because even our legitimate news sources that we feel like we trust, they get it wrong. It's very difficult. And I think you're right, Natalie. I don't know what it means for the future. I don't know what that means. Yeah. We're all in uncharted territory.
Because we see it in the dating scene. I mean, all of us here, we're all like either married or in a relationship. I mean, Georgia, you're practically married, so you're married.
Yeah. I don't see anything. So
Jeff, I know he's listening. Yeah, no, but the thing is like dating. It's like the dating apps and Tinder and Bumble and all that stuff. They go on a date. They're like, for half an hour, they've already read that person. In half an hour, they're like, that person's not for me, next. That's scary, you guys.
No, it is. It's really, it is really scary. And I don't know the answer.
Yeah, chop on the chopping block.
Because there's too many options. Well, I don't want to say there's too many options. I think for a long time, people felt like they were restricted to whatever they had in front of them.
Yeah.
But I think as time evolved and you weren't just tied to your town or your state to meet someone, I think when you have the ability to say, oh, I can get on, or I can get in the car for a couple hours and try this out with this guy in Kentucky, maybe, I don't know. Like, I think people's minds slowly started to just be like, oh, I don't actually have to stay here, and I can actually go date this guy, move there, and maybe try that out. And I think the apps put a GPS on, where everyone is. And so now everything is Big Brother, essentially, because you can't walk down the street. There's a camera everywhere. So essentially it is turning into a reality show. We probably are one big Hunger Games and we just don't know it yet. We haven't woken up.
Right. Truman Show. We are the Truman Show. This is what's happening right now. There's someone directing our lives, and they're like, okay, bring this. Let's have a war over here. Let's do this. Let's have a pandemic over here and see how our little characters are going to act.
And like the aliens from other planets are like watching us.
The aliens.
And we're the Bravo show that they recap on their podcast that are like, wait, like.
Oh, wouldn't that be good? I like that theory. I like that. That'd be amazing.
I wonder what our theme song is.
Show on I would want to watch this Earth show, whatever it's called.
What's our tagline?
Oh,
for
God.
this show or a theme song?
But speaking of podcasting, Sarah, you are pretty much a regular on a lot of podcasts, specifically Davidyon. So how's that experience been working with him? Because he's very much in the Bravo space and he's very honest. And so how does that work for both? Like, because you guys are kind of he's a great duo.
He's a Gemini, right? He's a Gemini. So yeah, he's a Gemini.
Well, David is very mysterious. I don't know. Actually, I should look up his birthday. I actually don't know David's real age. I need to investigate. He never
probably for a reason.
That's Gemini. That's such a Gemini thing to do.
Okay. You know, you never know David's real age. Dave, look, I say this, and I've done a whole video because I know David was involved in some controversy with Kim D recently. David has helped me tremendously as a business person. I mean, David's an incredible business person. And you guys know this. I mean, at some point, I think too, for podcasters, we have so many shows, but a lot of shows are not still even recording because it's hard to make money. You know, you have to know the business side of it. So David, first and foremost, from the very beginning, traded ideas with me and said, you know, if you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And I will forever be grateful, because without David, I would not have seen the incredible growth my show has had in the past year. He just, and it was from a chance email, kind of like how you guys, we all met. You know, David just messaged me and he said, hey, would you like to come on my show? You know, and I said, yeah. And you come on my show. And by the way, you two are invited on my show too. You guys will have to come on, talk about your show. Yes. But so I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then we had a really great time, and we sort of said, why don't we do a show together every single week? We'll put out the same episode, you know, on both of our platforms. It can be different days or whatever, but you know, let's talk about these Bravo shows. And to be honest with you guys, on my platform, I'm more of a TLC fanatic. I love Sister Wives, 1,000-Pound Sisters. Welcome to Plathville, which is about this, like, it was an uber religious family down in Cairo, Georgia. They had like 11 kids. In like 2020, the show launched in the pandemic, and their kids had never drank Coke. They'd never seen a cell phone. I'm like, who in the year of 2020 has never seen a cell phone? The show got me addicted. I love all these shows. And a lot of people, My 600-Pound Life, a lot of people hate them, but I'm like, it is real life. I mean, this is really happening to people. So I'm more of a TLC fan, but David sort of brought me back into Bravo. I've always watched. And then we do these, you know, recaps and deep dives on people. And, you know, their shows are amazing too. I love the Housewives. And so I pinch myself because I'm like, we all get paid to talk about these people driving around in Rolls Royces. I mean, this is like a dream. Or, you know, this religious group of polygamists, I get paid to talk about them in Utah. I mean, how great is my life? I mean, this is wild.
It blows my mind, the things that people will share on TLC though.
Oh, I mean,
that's what draws me in, because it's like, to your point, it is really happening. Maybe people don't want to watch that type of content, but this is real life to somebody.
Yeah,
I appreciate that they show. Yeah, they shoot it in a way that doesn't feel so produced either. So I appreciate that part of it too.
Yes. Yeah. It's
and
real.
You'll see, you guys, we're going to be moving into the more like 10, 15 years before era of reality TV, where it's going to be more raw, because the viewers are now a lot more sophisticated, more intuitive. We can read, we can see through the BS, through the storylines, through the where the producers have, you know, put their dirty little paws in. And we have to, as viewers, as fans, we want to go back to raw reality TV, where it's reality TV. It's not, you know, just putting on a show. Most housewives we know are bankrupt. They're broke. Most of them.
Yeah.
So this whole appearance, this veneer that they, you know, show, it's all on borrowed time and money.
Yeah, I know.
And we know that. And it's not as fun watching it, because we're watching it. We know, you know, it's like watching a couple, like watching Dorit and PK, because that's the more recent sort of, you know.
Yeah. Are they or aren't they separated? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're all like, as viewers, we're like, come on, is this a storyline? We're fed up. We just tired of this. And as content creators, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're getting tired of reporting and talking about the same old every friggin' time, and always going back and forth. Is this a storyline? Is this produced? Is this bullshit? Is there something else behind that? So if we are the professionals, let's just say, in quotes, quote unquote, are fed up, how about the viewers? No. I mean, they're not as dumb.
They watch so much of it, they can see. I mean, they are their own little experts, especially in the Bravo sphere. They pick up stuff, and I get stuff sent to me, screenshots of stuff I've watched the episode 3 times over, and I still didn't zoom in and see that picture behind whoever that they're like, see, I told you in November. And it's like, so it's wild. But yes, I do like that it's we're breaking the fourth wall more. We're seeing the cameramen there. Like, come on. We know that there's people there with cameras. We don't have to hide that from us anymore. Like, we know we're watching a show, but I do appreciate more of the rawness that comes along with TLC's content, I will say.
I do. I'm obsessed. But no, David has taught me a lot. And what I was drawn into of David is he's an amazing interviewer. And one of the things I had to learn was really the art of interviewing people. And I always say David is a genius at the pause. If you listen to his interviews, and he's taught me that, is like, shut up, Sarah. He's great at like, and he gives his guests this like long runway to keep talking. And then they reveal, things that you never thought they would reveal. And of course, I'm being like a crazy air sign, like never shut up, to let my guests like reveal their life story. So I've learned a lot.
Look at the three Aquarians right now cracking up.
You know why? Because I will say this, and this is perfect segue, because Davidyon, speaking of Davidyon, shout out to David. When I launched my Giorgio Says podcast, he was actually my first guest. He was responded immediately. He came on. He was so lovely. He was like, I was like panicked because I obviously know he's interviewed everyone. I mean, literally everyone. So I'm like, he said yes. I was 10 minutes early. I was there. I was waiting, and he was like, sorry, I'm just 5 minutes behind schedule. I'll be right on. And I was like, oh my God, he's gonna totally be like, sorry, I'm not coming on your shitty little podcast. But he did, and he was so kind and gave me such valuable advice at that time about how to reach out for guests or just how to just be with them. And I just remember that being so refreshing, because you don't know what you're going to get from another creator sometimes when you talk to them. And he was just really real and transparent and honest. And he was, as he is on the podcast, as he was off the recording. So I will always remember that about him. He was always very kind with his time with someone like me at that space and time. So
yeah, I've nothing but great things to say. And I hated to see he and Kim, part, because I think they were so great together. And, I always say to both of them, try to find a way to work it out if you want, and look, our business is hard too. I mean, it is still in its infancy, so it's hard to make money. It's hard. You guys, I'm sure, dealing with this. It's hard to make money with a co-host, these things are tricky. They're not, people don't know like all the back end of it. But it is, when you do have chemistry with someone, you got to hold on to it, because I learned that with the Kane Show. It's very hard to replicate good chemistry when you have it. And when you do, I just say to people, do everything you possibly can to make it work, because it's way harder than you think to go out and have that with somebody else.
Very true.
Spot on. That's why George and I, because we've known each other for over 2 years, and we met through YouTube. No, how was it? Yeah, I did a collab with Kempire, and then you reposted our video, and then we connected, and then I brought you on my channel. Georgia was just starting his channel at the time, so I really wanted to push his channel. I was like, come on, let's help Giorgio, let's build his subscribers and etc. And we connected on a personal level, like on a much deeper and personal level. And I'm never going to change that, because above all, to me, it's not just chemistry, but someone you trust and someone that you can have a deep, meaningful relationship as well outside the podcast, because there is the podcast, there is YouTube and all that. But at the same time, because we're in the same world, we're doing the same thing, it's important for us to understand each other on a personal level. And I agree with you 100% when you say that about David, because it's so apparent to all of us watching or listening that you've got an incredible chemistry and there's trust between you. You've got each other's backs.
David's just been so like, I've worked with difficult people like my whole life. And what I admire about David is he's so transparent. Like we've talked about back and forth, like we ought to launch our own podcast together. And he will say to me, he'll go, Sarah, you don't want to work with me. I'm a nightmare. And I go, oh my God, you're right. I know you are, he's a work, he says this about himself, but he's a workaholic, and he's meticulous. I mean, it's why, David ran a staffing agency. I mean, the guy was a litigator attorney. It's like, he has nothing to do with entertainment. And then he's got like a chart topping show. It's like, he's done that because he has this insane work ethic, and so I appreciate that, because I've been down so many paths with co-hosts and relationships of people. Yeah. We're going to do it. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And it never, works. And I mean, certainly I am at fault too, but I appreciate somebody who knows themselves and tells you from the start, nope, I can't do this. I just respect them so much because it's rare to find that, in someone. So he's turned out to be a great friend. People love our chemistry. I enjoy, and I always tell people too, that it's important to sometimes, not everybody, but for me, I always know now myself, I need to keep my own show. Because when I work with somebody and I'm on a morning show or I'm doing a TV show, like if I don't clearly know my role, it fucks me up so much. Like I can't be ambiguous. Like, oh, if we're going to have this show and you host sometimes and I'll host sometimes, it doesn't work for me. Like, tell me, am I the leader or am I the co-host? Because I can do both, but I can't be like confused, and I'm bad at that too. That's why I've sort of over the years, like I don't want to co-host anymore because it's like, I often can't be like boss and friend. It's like, am I your boss or am I your friend? Like, it's hard for me to be both, which is probably just a lack in management. So
that's my problem.
Probably
that's
why I'm not good at corporate.
No, neither. But before we get into your little mini reading, last thing, it's not really a question as much as it's, what would you say to anyone that's listening right now that has gone back and forth on putting themselves out there in terms of maybe a podcast or just doing content of any kind? What would you say to someone who's on the fence and is looking for that push?
Oh my, well, I'm 100% do it. Do it, try it, be open. What you start as is not always what you end as. I mean, I didn't know 8 years ago. 8 years ago, I did like 2 shows a week, 3 shows a week. I always had like a curiosity. My show kind of started more Joe Rogan-esque. Like I went to a mosque and like broadcasted live from a mosque. And then, people would say like, well, I want to hear your take on pop culture. And so I kept pursuing that. And then I started watching TLC and I had no idea that people were actually following these shows and wanted to hear my thoughts. So it's changed a lot. So start out. What you start at is not always going to be what you finish as. So be open to what your audience likes. And the thing is now, I think because so many people are doing it and trying it, it's probably going to take a year, a year, 2 years to build. It's a lot slower than, I know we all know YouTubers from a decade ago. They launched a YouTube channel and overnight they had 5 million views. I mean, those days it's really hard to do that. So I think like, don't get discouraged if you have like 300 views or 300 listens on an episode. It's going to take a long time. There's a lot of people out there trying things. And if you can be consistent and you can find that thing that you love and your audience loves and you grow with that, there's a lot of opportunity. But it takes longer now than ever. That's the only challenge.
All right.
Yeah, because there's a lot more now. There's a lot more choice and people are sort of getting lost in already the existing podcasts that they listen to. They want to try something new. Yeah, it takes longer. I agree. But it's until you find that sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
It's finding that sweet spot and then you're good.
Yeah. Oh my God, 100%. And I think there's so much growth still in podcasting for true crime. I mean, true crime is huge. People want more of that. Unique storytelling. Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
That's true. Right. So while you were talking, I was pulling some cards, Sarah. So are you ready for this?
I'm ready. I love all this stuff. And Natalie gave me a reading on my TikTok. I wasn't having it, but I'll be having this one. Let's go. Let's go.
Well, it's my fault because I was just receiving stuff and I'm like, I should let her know because I like her and I want her not to worry about it.
I love it. I'm just like hoping you're wrong. I'm hoping like I don't have to go through 2 IVF cycles and then have my 3rd successful. I'm hoping like I just get pregnant, like with the help of a little IVF magic. Okay.
Okay. Well, wait. All right. So you come up as the Queen of Swords. You're an air sign. So you come up as the Queen of Swords. That's the representing the Queen of Air signs. That's you. Now, the next 6 or 8 months, I do feel you're going to have some news regarding your baby situation, your, and I feel that you know this intuitively. You know intuitively when you're going to get pregnant.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you're right. So your intuition is right. So if you feel that 2024 is going to be a good year for you,
I know it. I just know it. I know I'm going to have my baby. I know I'm going to have a baby in 2024.
I'm getting goosebumps. Don't. Every time. She does this every time.
You're not. Wait. You're not.
I think it's a. Yeah. Okay, keep going.
Go on. Sorry. Go on. Then I'll tell you. I'll throw. Go on.
I'll tell you in a minute. I think it's a girl. I think I'm having a girl, and I think it's in 2024. I'm fine with boy.
How would you feel if it was 2?
Oh my God. At the same time?
Wait, like twins or like?
It's called twins, Giorgio. Twins.
Oh my! Well, I'm having more of a reaction, I think, than Sarah. She's going to be the one carrying them.
See, all right.
Wait, okay. Okay, someone bring Sarah a glass of water. Yeah.
I'm actually getting. Okay.
She's getting flushed, actually.
I really
maybe you need a drink. I mean, you can drink now. I mean, you won't be able to drink in a few months, but yeah.
All right.
Okay. Wait. I've got more. Wait. It could be twins, but here's the thing. I also see you signing something. So if you have something in the works regarding, I wanted to ask you, because I felt that while we were recording, are you preparing, or is there some kind of like production work that you're prepping?
Yeah? A couple different things. Okay. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Have you signed a contract? Look at George.
No,
George is like,
no, I have like 3 things out. I'm working on a YouTube show with my husband. I'm working. I auditioned for this talk show. I haven't heard a peep, so who knows? Which is like, okay. And then I have this other company that wanted to run some of my videos, and they were like testing them. And then they said, "Oh, if these are successful on our platform, we may give you like a deal, and you'll make advertising money." So I have these 3 things out, but I haven't signed anything on anything.
All right, you're signing. So you're signing in the next few months. Okay. You're signing something big. And out of these 3, I see 2 of them materializing or happening.
Okay. All right. Okay. I like
this.
And
next year, aside from the pregnancy and the baby and all that, is going to be a friggin' busy year for you. You're going to be busy working your head off. It's going to be crazy.
I keep pulling cards.
Yeah. Just be careful. One little
yeah, tell me some warning.
I mean, if you want a proper reading, I'll give you a proper reading off the offline or some other time, because what I'm saying is I do see there is going to be some kind of like disappointment that's coming your way. Okay, there could be someone that you're working with, or you want to work with, or someone that you're in talks to work with, or collab with, co-host with, something like that. That's going right at the last minute is going to fall through. It's going to fold. It's not going to go anywhere. And that's going to be very disappointing in you for you, because I feel that you will invest a lot of time, effort, and money, and hopes as well, and expectations in that. And it feels to me that you're going to come out empty-handed and very disappointed, and a little bit annoyed as well, like angry about that behavior and that situation.
Oh, great. Okay. More trauma to work through. Great.
but amazing news.
But amazing. Really great. Look, I feel it. I feel it. I said this because for your audience that doesn't know this summer, I just had this miscarriage, and and it was like late. It's the second late miscarriage that I've had. I seem to have my doctor always says, I think your body really wants to be pregnant. So it really tries, but the egg isn't good.
Yes.
But it was so funny because the whole time with that pregnancy, I just was so anxious, like I had never been. I just knew there was something off. And, then when I found out there was something wrong, like the baby had passed away and there was no heartbeat, I don't know. Since then, I've just like gotten so much more grounded, and I just can feel the baby or babies. I keep feeling one, but maybe it's 2.
But mind you,
it's going to happen. And I just need to chill and slow. Air signs, you guys know this. I do so much. So I've really challenged myself since August when I had this miscarriage. I just have done meditation and slowed way down. I'm like, I have to make room for this baby or baby.
Yeah.
I'd be happy with that. I just have to make room for this healthy baby. Like I just do. So I just feel it. I feel it. And I agree. I feel like 2024 is the year. I know.
And also, let me just, I want to preface by saying that I said twins, but it's not necessarily that you're going to give birth to twins. Just saying, okay? I do see twins, but it could be that one of them doesn't stick, or at the beginning, there might be some kind of complication. And then in the end, you end up with one. And I do feel girl too, by the way.
Oh, I do too. I just feel it. I mean, I'm fine if it's a healthy boy, but something is giving me like,
when all of this comes to fruition, we need to come back together and we need to recap this episode with that, because this is wild.
Natalie, okay, I just have one last question for you guys. This is amazing. We could talk for 2 hours. You're going to be on the Sarah Fraser Show. You're going to be on my show. But wait, Natalie, when you were on the TikTok and I just saw your thing pop up, but I didn't pursue it because I had this experience years ago in Maryland with a like well-known psychic in Annapolis. She was like supposed to be Maryland's #1 psychic. And she came into the TV station because I was a contributor. And she came straight up to me. And I can't, honestly, I can't even remember what she said, but she was like, you have to call me, something about a building in Los Angeles. I mean, I guess she wasn't totally wrong. I moved to LA. I haven't like gone into a building and had like this contract signing or something, but maybe it's coming. Anyway, then I call her. And then she read me like totally different. She's like, there's something going on with your feet.
What?
Feet? Okay, bitch. Okay, bitch. This was, I paid like hundreds of dollars. I'm like, girl, you don't even remember me from the fucking TV station. And now it's my feet. Like, I ain't got plantar fasciitis here. All right. Like, you told me about a building in LA. So that was like what is like tainted my psychic.
There's so many like wannabes out here. You see them on TikTok too. The ones that are frantically throwing tarot cards because they're like, oh my gosh, did you see that? And it's like, oh my gosh, that's not. And
Natalie, tell me quickly tell me like what you do and what you're known for. Because I love this stuff. I just like, after that, I was like, oh, this bitch, like she got my cash. She got my, like, I was planning my move around her. Anyway, tell me what you do.
So I'm a psychic medium. So I connect with deceased loved ones, and I'm also psychic. I can predict the future. I also do astrology. I'm into astrology. I started learning about astrology when I was 12 years old because me having a Scorpio moon, I had to get into this whole occult and stuff because I was born with these gifts, right? But when I was little, I would block them because I would be so scared because I would see things and feel things and say things that either people did not have the same experience as me, or I really thought I was like, if there was Google back then when I was a child, I'm sure my Google history would be, what does a psychopath look like? I mean, what are the symptoms of, psychosis? Because I really thought I had psychosis. So this is what I do. And but I want to call myself a spiritual coach because when I give readings, it's not so much, you're going to get married when you're 35, your husband's going to look like that. This is how many kids you're going to have. That's all great to know. But on the other hand, I want to help people understand their true, who they are, their core. What is their journey about, their path, understanding trauma, things that they've been through, losing a child, being abused by a parent, being married to a narcissist, whatever it may be. I help them through my gifts, understand them, why they're going through that, and helping them to see that the future is not all that dark, because I do give them, I give them insight as in what's coming for them and preparing them for stuff like that. And I always read in a very positive note because I see myself as a coach. So I want people to feel empowered and enlightened and happy and powerful after we're done the session. And this is normally what happens. Now, on YouTube, I read celebrities. I read around all the gossip. I read guests when they're on. People just invite me over to their podcast or their YouTube channels, and they want us to talk and dive in and analyze what's going on. I give world event predictions. Yeah, I'm a Swiss knife.
Oh my God. I want all your world event predictions too. And I really do believe people, they do have that intuition. And I know people can like feel spirits from the other side. I mean, I have such a strong gut. I mean, my gut,
yeah, you do.
Never lets me down. And I'll tell, and people have always gone, it's so dumb that you do this, but I'm a very big person. Like for me, all my success happens in like a place where I feel it. So like with DC, when I moved there after college, I just knew that I was going to get a job. And people were like, you're never going to work in a major market starting out for your first job. You're never going to be on a morning show. You're going to have to go to bumfuck New Hampshire. And I never believed that. I always knew if I was in Washington, DC, something magical was going to happen. And then a few years ago, I felt that same way about LA. And we moved here in a year and a half ago. And I can tell you guys, the most success, everything from health, finance, my marriage, everything. Like when we did have COVID the day like after we landed, but minus that, it's been amazing here. Like all these doors have opened, all these opportunities that like, I'm not even seeking. It's wild. So I do know that people have it. Because I have some sort of, I can feel it.
You do. I can tell you do. Yeah. You're
so
intuitive yourself.
I just have a hard time waiting out like I get so into it. So I just always believe everybody that says it. And then I end up spending thousands of dollars on tons of stuff.
Do you know how many people come to me? Do you know how many people come to me and they said, I've been to such and such, I'm not going to name them, medium celebrity who are on TV, they're big names. And they're like, it was 15 minutes. I paid $400. It was 15 minutes. And it was generic. Yes. It was generic. I've heard this from so many people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Georgia, you were going to say something.
What I was going to say to her point, Natalie's point about being a spiritual coach. So when we first met, it was through collaboration, through content. But what I realized was when I booked my reading with her, I had stopped getting them for a very long time because, to your point, and maybe it's a Maryland thing, there's just a lot of gypsies out here that want you to invest in expensive candles from Egypt and take the hex off. And they chase you around and they're like, but if you don't buy the candle, you're going to die. And you're like,
yeah.
So you're at the ATM and you're like frantically, like you're being robbed spiritually almost. So I gave up on that. But long story short, right at the height of pandemic, I lost my dad. And then we moved into this house. And then I was just in this moment of like darkness still. I'm not used to not having distractions. I'm not leaving my house. And when we connected, I booked a reading with her and I went into it with just an open mind. And I was like, well, if it's not resonating, then whatever. I know this is not for me. Maybe I don't need to sit with these types of people that do this. But then instantly she connected me to my dad, and that healed probably 20 years of trauma for me. My dad was able to answer questions to me that I would never probably have gotten answers to here. So that changed my whole outlook on this journey that we're on here. So I always send people to her every time. Like we had just had friends over and I was like, they seemed a little off. Like I was like, you need to talk to my friend Natalie. Here's her information. Book a reading with her.
And Natalie, when you were talking, I just got like a really calm feeling about you. So that's always a good sign. Like, you have a really soothing presence. So okay, come on. Now I need the whole damn reading. Get the whole deck. Get the whole cards. I need the whole damn thing. I need to know what should
schedule you in for that. Absolutely. I'll give you all the deets, everything.
It's so, I don't want to say, I know life-changing sounds very dramatic, but I'm an air sign, so we kind of embellish. It is. If you are somebody that is really thirsty for that, and it sounds like you are on that journey right now, being spiritually grounded and trying to be more in tune with yourself, this is going to open up the door for you, and you're going to be like, wow, okay, I feel like I feel it, but now I feel like I can actually own it and be confident in it. It's just something about it. It's not telling you play-by-plays. It's not psychic, like you're going to do it on this date. It's more of like a energy shift based on some certain little details that you'll get that you may not have known otherwise. And that, I think, to me is the point of difference between maybe what other people try to do or get out of it versus like, I need a guide and some support from myself. And how do I tune into that when you're not around, Natalie, or whatever? You know what I mean? Which is why people frantically email her in hard times, because they're like, oh, I need something. I need clarity, or there's got to be a sunlight over this hump, right, Natalie? And then she'll be like, hold on. But she keeps you still. She doesn't let you. Some of them get you more fired up, if that makes sense. Like someone's got relationship issues, somehow they're leaving there more angry and they're getting a divorce rather than trying to sit with themselves.
Well, and I hate the 15 minutes and you're done. It's like, it's like, just give me an hour so we can like work on two things. But I agree. I hate that. And that it's really hard, right? I mean, that's another bit. All of these businesses now are just saturated with people, which in some ways is great, but it just makes it harder to weed through like who is who has it and who doesn't. It's amazing. So, oh my gosh, you guys, this was great. This was
so fun. Thank you, Sarah, for coming on. You made my personal little professional dream come true because I absolutely adored. It's like we're gonna be talking about this for the rest of the night.
You guys are coming on my show, and I can't wait.
Hilarious.
I want to hear your what Kane Show segment stuck with you. So don't tell me now when you come on my show. I'm
gonna save all that for your show because
we would love to.
Yes, you guys will be on in the next couple weeks. I can't wait. Thank you both.
Thank you, Sarah. And then we'll definitely let you know, like when we put the episode out, and let everyone know where they can find you.
At the Sarah Fraser Show on TikTok. I drop a podcast episode daily. I'm crazy.
Wow.
So 7 days a week. Yeah. It has become my full-time job and life. And really at the Sarah Fraser Show everywhere on every platform. So I'm always talking sister wives or, we talk some housewives, all that. And I share my personal journey. So all of the above.
I love that.
Thank you for coming, Sarah. We will see you very soon on your show.
Thank you both. Amazing.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys, and that's it for this episode. Thanks for listening. And if you are listening to us, make sure you leave us a 5-star review on the respective platform that you're listening to us on. And if you're watching us on Spotify, thank you. Make sure you let us know down below what you thought of this episode. Natalie, where can everyone find us?
Yes, you can find us on YouTube, on TikTok, and on Instagram. Giorgio goes under Giorgio Says on all these platforms, and I go under Femme Tarot. So please make sure that you follow us over there as well, because there's a lot of content that we roll out every week.
And if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you get subscribed and hit that notification bell so you don't miss when we upload our new episode, which will be once a week.
And if you want to email us with your questions, what kind of questions do you want us to ask future guests that are going to be coming on this podcast? And you make sure that you follow us, because we have a long list of incredible content creators that will be joining this podcast in the very, very near future. So please email us at creatingthecreatorpod@gmail.com.
Perfect. And until the next episode, you guys, Natalie and myself will talk to you on the next episode. Bye.
Till next time. Bye.